The Final Four, Chapter 12, Michael Jordan, 7:41 p.m. MJ's heart is still pounding from his last-second heave rattling out of the basket at the end of the first overtime. He's breathing hard on defense as Troy moves the ball from man to man. Up on his toes, MJ dances around screens, reacting to the rhythmic thump of each Trojan pass hitting its target. Then MJ hears the harsh slap of an open palm against the rock. It was Malcolm deflecting a pass away. The Spartans now have the ball, and MJ is on his horse, sprinting up the court. Baby Bear whips the ball ahead to MJ, who spots Malcolm filling an open lane to the basket. On one bounce, MJ delivers the rock into Malcolm's hands before cutting to the hoop himself. Malcolm goes in for a layup, purposely angling his body at Crispin's, trying to draw a foul. There's contact, but no foul called by the ref. Malcolm's driving shot doesn't go down, and MJ outfights his man for the rebound. He can hear Malcolm barking at the ref over that non-call. MJ pump fakes with the ball, getting his defender off his feet. He goes up for the easy putback, but misses at point-blank range. Playing as if his name was on the line, MJ rips the rock away from another Trojan and lays it up again. This time, the ball spins around and out as if there was a see-through plastic cover over the rim. Despite the echo of boos in his ears, MJ has more fight in him. He bats at the ball, desperately trying to keep it alive on the glass, until suddenly, off of MJ's fingertips, the ball hangs on the iron without any spin at all, and then falls through the net. MJ emerges from the crowd beneath the basket like a battered prizefighter who's just landed the punch of a lifetime. The Spartans now lead 75-73, with a little more than 4 minutes remaining in double overtime. And with those jeers having turned into a shower of applause, MJ heads back up the court, pumping his fist at Malcolm. So the overtime is still going on, and as we see here and as we've seen previously in the book, Michael Jordan, MJ, is not as good of a player as Malcolm or some of these other guys, because he did come off of the bench. He's not one of their original starters, but he is an extremely hard worker, and he doesn't give up. So even though he doesn't make the basket the first time, right, he keeps going after that rebound. He keeps trying to get it in, and his tenacity pays off, and he ends up making the basket, and the Spartans now lead the game 75-73. November, 4 months ago. As they wrestled on the floor, MJ got his hands free from Malcolm's and fired 3 or 4 clean punches into his grill. But there was no quit in Malcolm. He fought back like a wildcat, and his nail took a small patch of skin off of MJ's chain. Just as a reminder, MJ and Malcolm are roommates. They don't like each other, but they were forced to be roommates by the athletic department. And the last chapter we read about them, they had gotten into a fight with one another. Other players in the athletes' dorm heard the ruckus. They tried to come bursting into the room. Only MJ and Malcolm were tangled up in front of the door, blocking it. And when Baby Bear lowered his shoulder to force it open, MJ saw a flash of white light as the door slammed into the side of his head. A bunch of guys, including Baby Bear and Grizzly, separated MJ and Malcolm. A senior on the football team sniped at Grizzly. "Our freshmen know their place. You let that McBride kid get away with thinking he's all that in a bag of chips. That's your fault for not setting him straight." Grizzly exploded at Malcolm, shoving him backward at the shoulder with his stiff arm. "You hear that stuff I have to take because of your attitude?" Then Baby Bear stepped in between and said, "I feel you on this, Grizz, believe me, but don't dent our scoring machine." "Man, I belong to me, not any of you," said Malcolm, pulling himself free of people's grasp. "I'll act the way I want." "Not in my face you won't," countered MJ. "I just proved that." "The two of you shut up," warned Grizzly, "and nobody else here better breathe a word of this outside the dorm." But out of spite, one of the football players had already called security, and within a few minutes, campus police arrived at Malcolm and MJ's door. It was Sergeant Dixon, a 5'0" black woman in her 40s whose attitude was bigger than any other cops on campus. "Everyone back to your own rooms. Move. I won't tell you all again," Sergeant Dixon ordered. "I only want the two in the altercation to remain here." She had a pair of officers with her who were large enough to play football on Michigan State offensive line, but she didn't need them. "Nothing happened. I must have cut myself shaving," answered MJ to Sergeant Dixon's question about the mark on his chin. "I'm just no good at it." "That's why we shouldn't give razors to children," replied Dixon without a stitch of humor. After that, MJ wouldn't say another word. He just kept rubbing the growing knot on his right temple. Malcolm wasn't in a talking mood either, especially with a swollen lower lip. "Not sure what happened," Malcolm told Sergeant Dixon, raising the bottom of his shirt up to his mouth to dab the blood. "I must have walked into that door." "Don't blast me in front of me," she demanded. "Sorry, ma'am," said Malcolm, as if he was suddenly talking to his own mother. You expect me to believe it was the door? She asked with her penciled-in eyebrows raised. What'd you think I was going to say? Added Malcolm. I'm no snitch. Sergeant Dixon was tight with Coach Barker, so instead of writing up a report and filing it with the dean's office, she called Barker on his cell. MJ could hear Barker's irate voice on the other end, and when the short conversation was over, Sergeant Dixon said, Both of you boys are coming with me to the gymnasium. So this fight is so bad that it's drawn the attention of everyone else in the dorm, and to the point where the football team, someone on the football team has called campus security. Sergeant Dixon, this woman, shows up, and she commands respect of a room even though she's quite short. Asks the boys what happened. Neither MJ and Malcolm will own up to what happened between them. Sergeant Dixon, though, she's good friends with their coach, and so she says, all right, I'm taking you with me. We're going to go see Coach Barker. The two walked on either side of her, and she did all of the talking. You can take that grim look off your face, Dixon told MJ. Seeing the coach is better than seeing the dean. It's like the judge being your stepfather. But MJ was concentrating more on Malcolm. He was jealous of the swagger the freshman was walking with. Dixon escorted them as far as the gym door, and the pair entered on their own. Barker was standing at the foul line beside a rack of basketballs, shooting free throws. MJ and Malcolm silently took up places a few feet to his left. Barker drained a half-dozen shots in a row before taking his eyes off the rim to look at them. That's 49 straight, said Barker, picking another ball off the rack and spinning it between his hands. It doesn't matter that I put on 20 pounds since my playing days. I never lost my shooting touch. How many do you two geniuses think you can make? Malcolm didn't give an answer, and neither did MJ. Well, if I miss this last free throw, I'm going to run those bleacher steps from the bottom to the top 10 times, said Barker. The coach buried his final shot, barely jiggling the net. Hooray, no running for me, he said, barely cracking a smile. Now it's your turn. 25 shots apiece to equal my 50. Add your scores up together. For every shot either one of you misses, you'll each run 10 sets of steps. So I'm guessing you'll be rooting for each other, if you're smart. So Barker gives them kind of an unusual punishment for their fight. And he says, look, I just sank 53 throws in a row. Just me personally. So he said, now it's y'all's turn. Each of you has to shoot 25 free throws. And he says, add up your scores. For every shot you miss, you'll each run 10 sets of steps. So you better be cheering for each other, because if the other one misses, okay, you're running no matter what, okay, if a ball is missed. Malcolm stepped up to the line first, and MJ watched as he sank all 25, even with that busted lip. Then it was MJ's turn, so no pressure there. Malcolm sinks all 25 of his free throws. Didn't miss a single one. So now it's MJ's turn. He missed the first 3 shots, with Malcolm chasing down the ball for him and scowling over every one. Don't worry about it, Mr. Jordan. I'm sure you'll find your rhythm soon, said Barker. That's what you're searching for in pressure situations, a rhythm or a flow. MJ hit his next 9 shots before the feeling left him again. In the end, MJ made just 14 out of 25. So imagine how he's feeling. You got this hot shot guy, Malcolm, who started a fight with him. Malcolm makes all 25 shots, and MJ only makes 14 out of 25 shots. So he has to be feeling not that great right now. 11 misses. That's 110 sets of steps the two of you owe me. But I guess that's better than being suspended 2 games for fighting. Better for you, better for the team, better for me, pronounced Barker. Before you begin climbing, you boys want to tell me what the fight was? So Barker's not going to punish them beyond this. They're not going to be suspended from any games, the school, anything like that. Like, this is their punishment, and he hopes that they learn from this punishment. Then he asks, okay, what was the fight about? He put his hands on my sister's tattoo, Malcolm blurted out quickly. He said something I didn't like about me and my dad, said MJ with just as much gas. Barker studied them for a few seconds, and then he said, you two need more common ground. Maybe you should visit a junkyard together sometime. I'll give you each a sledgehammer, and you can beat on abandoned cars instead of each other. That's what you both hate, right? Cars? Jordan's father was killed in a traffic accident, and Malcolm's sister in a drive-by. So we have these 2 guys that, yes, they're both on the Spartan basketball team, but they seem like they have no common ground, nothing in common. And Barker, just like that, points out something that they do have in common. right? They have like a lot of tension, a lot of hatred in their heart because of what's happened to their family members. And both of their family members' deaths were caused by cars. Again, Malcolm's sister was killed in a drive-by shooting, and Michael Jordan's dad was killed in a car accident. MJ looked over at Malcolm, who was staring back at him. Then MJ's right hand, which was hanging down at his side, suddenly balled up in a tight fist. Only it wasn't Malcolm who MJ was pissed at now. "But you two will share common ground," demanded Barker. "You'll run those steps together, side by side. No leader, no follower. Now get moving." It was 5 sections up and 5 back down, with 40 concrete steps in each section, and the smell of stale sweat everywhere. After climbing the first couple of sections, MJ started singing to himself, trying to find a rhythm. He tried a bunch of songs before eventually settling on something his mother always played on CD, Smokey Robinson's Tears of a Clown. It was a tune Malcolm knew well, one of his parents' favorites. "Hey, American Idol, remember that song from the old Gatorade commercial? I Want to Be Like Mike?" asked Malcolm. "Why don't you sing that one for a while?" But MJ let that remark go. Then, on their 15th set, MJ asked Malcolm, "You think Coach said that nasty stuff about junkyards and cars we'd hate on him and not each other?" Barker was beneath one of the baskets, talking on his cell phone. "I don't really care," answered Malcolm. "If he didn't have the keys to the NBA kingdom, I'd tell him to take all that sneaker company money he gets for the kicks we have to wear and run the steps himself." 2 sets of steps later, Malcolm said, "By the way, you should be saying thank you to me, bench warmer." "Why's that?" asked MJ. "If you'd gotten into a fight with anyone else, you'd have been suspended for sure," said Malcolm. "Oh yeah? That's right. I'm too valuable to lose. This team's not winning without me at the point." "Wow, that's some favor you did for me," said MJ. "Thanks." So it seems like despite this punishment, Malcolm hasn't learned his lesson at all. He says the only reason he's even listening to his coach and doing this is because he knows he needs to continue playing basketball to finish out the season at the college so then he can go to the NBA. Whereas with Michael Jordan, he's starting to think through what the coach did, and he's like, "Hey, do you think he said that thing about the cars so that way we'd both get upset and be mad at him and stop being mad at each other?" Malcolm doesn't care. He doesn't care to learn a lesson here.